Good evening.
Hello,
How are you?
Peachy. I have my voice again.
Yay. I know we just had us a little giggle fest about hot stuff.
Food in general, even, I would say, because it kind of went off onto a whole tangent thing.
Yeah, it started with the fact that I love tacos almost as much as I love coffee.
Yeah, and then that led into taco salad, and somehow that led to me not having steak for 6 years.
Yeah, it was, yeah, because I think like we've been on Zoom for what, 25 minutes?
Maybe a little more than that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was about 1 o'clock when I started. Yeah, yeah, something like that. It's been a minute. So,
Yeah,
um, but it was like food.
that's all right. Food's fun.
Food, food is life. So
Food
I
is an issue for me. So,
so I will update. Everything went great with my stress test. I was able to go back to work. Yay me. On the plus side, this week is only a 3 day work week,
nice.
and I got one down. So I'm 1/3 of the way through. Did
Nice.
did you have a decent fourth?
It wasn't terrible. Um, so I worked Monday. Tuesday went with my husband in the afternoon, which was kind of nice to be able to get back early enough. And then had surprise visitors to do a fireworks show,
Oh, okay.
which surprisingly was a good fireworks show for a home fireworks show. Needless to say, all the neighbors also got a show.
Yeah. Yeah, we've done that a few times where we've like going out to my father-in-law's, like everyone that was there just bought like so many fireworks, and then you know like my brother-in-law and someone else let them off, and it was like you said, nice for like a home show.
Hmm.
And I don't go to the fireworks. I
Yeah.
haven't um for a long time now. The last time I did, the real big one, the real popular one around here is the Bay City fireworks, and it's like they do a carnival,
Mm,
and they'll have bands playing. Like it's a whole thing, and
okay.
their big show is usually that Saturday.
Yeah.
So, um, but a few years back they were doing their 50th anniversary, and my brother-in-law's brother-in-law is on some committee, and they got like passes. Like we were so close, we could actually see the people lighting them
Are you
off.
running? That's awesome.
Now, we were from my brother-in-law's house at the time to where we went for fireworks was maybe an 8-minute drive to get
Oh,
there.
wow.
It took us 3 hours to get back to his house afterwards. And at that point, I said, you know what? It is not worth it. Never again.
Oh my gosh.
No. So
That's
I
insane.
now this year is probably the first year that like my neighborhood hasn't done an amazing one, because usually the guy like that I can see looking out this window and some people across the street and the next street over, you could this year there was a few, but not nothing like years past. I don't give a shit. I'll sit in the house for it. I don't care.
Yeah. I used to go when I was younger and like with my older children, I always took them. But I always had friends and stuff to go with
Mm-hmm.
too. But I haven't gone to the fireworks in over 10 years, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, but like if like my work will have them every now and again and stuff, and like if we have them, I'll go outside and watch. But like I don't hunt them down or anything because like 3 hours to get back.
Yeah, it's yeah, the traffic. No, yeah, that was the last time I went. And even before that, like because Saginaw has one on the 4th every year, and it's an okay show. I mean, I don't know. To me, once you've seen one fireworks show, you've kind of seen them all. Um, I don't know. As an adult, they just don't have the appeal that they
Yeah,
did when I was a kid.
yeah. And for past years, he really hasn't liked them. However, he loved them this year. He had a blast running around in the yard and all that kind of stuff.
But,
So I think that made a difference too, is the fact that he could stay home.
okay.
Um, so, and they already proclaimed they're doing it again next year. So that'll be interesting. As far as like events around here that do it, I have no idea. I'm always working, so
Yeah. Yeah. So it was, it was, eh. Um, my husband's son and grandson went, I don't know, up north over somewhere. I don't know. And Rachel came and stayed. And
mhm.
the first night we got out of work and we came home and we got a little high.
My stomach is grumbling like
Oh,
crazy again.
well,
I think that's how we kept switching food topics.
it could be. I haven't been able to hear it, so
Oh,
hopefully, I mean, I don't know. But that first night we got a little high, we played some cards, and then the next day we went and got the stuff to make adult pudding. Um,
adult pudding.
yes, basically pudding shots, but it's just me and her. I wasn't gonna put them in the little solo cups. So I just made a bowl and we just took the spoon. Um,
I love it.
in the one we got cheesecake pudding
Mm,
and we got like these little shots of I think it's white chocolate strawberry. It's like the Smoky Mountain, the same or Smoky something, the same company that makes the moonshine.
Okay, we have one here that's like a cow one, and it's like a strawberry cream something that would be so good in that, and you can get them in the little bottles.
Yeah. Well, this was like white chocolate something. I don't know. I saved the little jars because they're cute as shit. And I'm like, those would make really good spell jars.
Nice.
And the other one was Mountain Java.
Please explain.
The best way I can explain it is I don't know, it was just so good. It was coffee and I'm not a drinker. I am not a drinker.
Hmm.
Um, but we bought like what two of those that we just did those as shots. And I wish we would have got more. And then I also made chocolate pudding and mixed it with the screwball peanut butter whiskey.
Okay.
That is that was strong medicine, strong. And then I actually have like the ice cube molds that are like circles.
Mhm.
And I took those and in one half I put the pudding and then I put the top on and put toothpicks in it. It made some Bill Cosby pudding pops because those ones they were very strong, very strong.
Awesome.
But it was fun.
That sounds fun.
I definitely want to go and get me some more of that Mountain Java one because that shit was delicious.
That's awesome. I I haven't done anything fun yet. I'm supposed to have my lunch date tomorrow. Uh, and I'm still looking for a local friend to help me color my hair. That's all I got going on.
Um, I did color my hair. I know you can't really
Mhm.
see it in this light, really, but it is
A little
purple.
bit. It's
It
cute.
is. I do have to touch it up because I did miss some spots. Look, I used to do my hair every 2 weeks, and I haven't dyed my hair in over 6 months. I am out of practice.
That's kind of part of my problem, but the other part of my problem is my hair's so long.
Yeah,
Like I have to be able to get the root, like I have to lighten the root and then color the whole thing. The problem is I can't get covered in it and I can't wear the gloves to do it.
gotcha, gotcha.
Because yeah, that's a lot to have them on for. Like if I was just covering my head in the red, like I could slap it on real quick usually. But that's not the case for this round. So I need help.
Gotcha. So, other than your lunch date, do you have anything cool coming up?
No. Mm. However, I did check out a book from the library today for an interesting topic that I've actually come across in the past. And then I saw it and I was like, ooh, yes, that would be a great one. And I'm not going to tell you what it is yet.
Okay. I don't want to know anyway. Um, I've got Saturday off because they canceled it.
Go figure.
Looks like Diet Christmas again. Um, words, they escape me. Oh, I was trying to find something to do with the grandkids this weekend. Well, one of them is visiting a relative and isn't going to be home until like, I don't know, I think she said the 15th. And that's my little Jackaroni who video chatted me tonight. He was wearing a wig.
Oh, jeez.
Like, what the fuck? Because he's like, I have a new look, Danny. You gotta look. Well, we're working, the line is moving. So I'm like, okay, give me a second. Just hold on. And I get over there and he's wearing like, I don't know, the best way I can describe it was like Rachel from Friends, like that, but maybe a little poofier.
That's awesome. That's hilarious.
That kid. Oh. So it's the oldest and the youngest that are home. And I thought, well, the other one's going horseback riding and all kinds of other fun shit. So I
Dang.
think
Lucky
I'm gonna
kids.
take I think I'm gonna take the other two to the zoo this weekend. And oh, yeah, right. And I think I have Papa convinced to go with me.
Oh,
So we'll
fun.
see.
Nice. Marcelo had his ice cream party for his summer reading program today,
Okay.
where he got a packet of free items. I think in total he ended up with like 4 or 5 free meals, free ice cream, free curly fries. He got a ticket to a Rafters game. He got a free pound of candy. He got a museum ticket.
Damn.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff. Oh, a corn maze ticket.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah. There was a lot of stuff, and like it's not all like right around here. There's some in like a couple of outlying towns and stuff, but there's still enough around here that there's potential.
Okay. Well,
So
that's awesome.
yeah,
Congratulations to him.
Yeah.
Ow.
His goal was 200 minutes and he did 290.
Sorry, I just hit the
Yeah,
back of
right
my foot.
there.
Yeah, I hit the back of my foot on the leg of this. Look, I finally cleaned this room that I've been talking about cleaning for 6 months now. I finally did it, and now there's nothing blocking the 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 legs of the futon, and I just whacked the back of my foot on it. So
Whoops. Oh, and you forgot to mention your lovely new tapestry. I'm in love with it.
I this is the main reason I've wanted to clean the room because I wanted this up. I love it. Um, it came from Oh My Stars and Stones, and she had posted this one and a couple other ones, and the one she had two available. This was the only one of this, and I'm like, I want it.
Now you gotta tell another story because I gotta fill my cup.
Okay, I can tell another story. Oh shit, now I'm on the spot. I don't know what to tell. Oh, I had okay. So, um, Rachel came and stayed because my house is creepy and I don't like to be here alone. So the 2 nights she was here, nothing happened. And she did say like she did see like some shadows by my refrigerator, which is very common. Like we all see it here.
Yes, I've seen it too.
So she left on Sunday. So I figured, okay, this is the day. I've got no one here bothering me. This is the day I'm going to clean the podcast room. So I'm in here and I'm also a squirrel. I get distracted very easy. And I would find a crystal that I hadn't seen in a while because, it's hasn't been the greatest in here. And I'd get distracted by that or just whatever. And I was once the futon was all cleared off, I was sitting on it and I was watching The Ranch. And I don't know what time was that, like 2:30 in the morning, because I poloed Jenny like right away.
Two,
As
2:30 somewhere in that area.
as soon as it happened. And like I'm sitting here and I heard two loud beeps, almost like if you had like a motion detector at like in a paranormal investigation or a smoke detector. And like I even the next day I was walking Jenny through like this is where they are and like it came from this area. And that's when I said, you know what? I'm done cleaning. I'm gonna lock myself in my room, put a movie in. I mean, not that locking is gonna do any fucking difference, but it makes me feel better. And I put on a movie and I think Bridesmaids is what I put on, and I didn't get that far into it, and I was out. I was out. But yeah, it scared the shit out of me.
That same night, when I got home from work, there was a weird guttural noise coming from the woods behind where I park my car. Yes.
Mm-mm.
So I got out as like the noise was going, and so like I closed my car door and I hear it and I'm like, what? And it stops and then it starts again. I'm like, oh no, no, not hanging out for that. Meanwhile, my cat Bagel is by the porch on the other side of the driveway. She hears it. She books it to the house. I was like,
Smart
okay,
bagel.
taking the cue from the cat.
Yep.
So get back or get in the house and I'm looking out the window towards that area. We have the pond, there's my car, there's a little fenced in area with a table and stuff, and then there's the tree line. I didn't see anything. I didn't like nothing. So next day telling everyone about it and I'm listening to different sounds. So there's like possibility of bobcat, a cougar, or a bear. Yeah. Not to mention, we also have coyotes and stuff like that in our woods here. And that was like my initial thought, but considering how it continued to make like that same noise, I don't think it was a coyote. It didn't do any of the yipping or barking or anything like that.
Yeah, that's you know, I love this being cleaned off because I can like sit comfortably now instead of just like
Yeah.
before I was just on the edge and just no, now I can just kick back.
Joe
Like,
finally gets to lounge as I tell the story, as I have so many times lounged as she has told the story.
yeah.
Because today is part 2 of the Dozer School for Boys.
Don't mind me. I'm eating some nerds
And
gummy.
she's the one snacking tonight, not me. How did our roles reverse? I
I
love it.
I don't know. I like it.
If it makes you feel any better, as I refilled my water cup, I really eyed my yogurt. And isn't that right? You're over there eating nerds, and I'm all yogurt.
Yep, these. Oh, I love these.
Are those the gummies covered with the nerds?
Yes.
Okay, Marcelo got some of those yesterday. Don't get those wet, they get everywhere.
The only place
Just
they're
a heads
getting
up.
wet is my mouth. And that didn't sound good. I'm sorry.
The better part of that is the fact that I know that they're little balls covered in little balls.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Which
I'll be here.
I got my earrings.
Hmm.
I love
Do
them.
we get to see them?
They're in another room.
Okay, fine. Fair enough. Next week.
Next week I will show off my
Membered earrings.
mhm.
Okay, so on to the story.
Yep.
We talked last time about the history of the school, how it came to be, some personal accounts. We talked about a specific town that it was very close to, is like on the outskirts, but not entirely. Um, so this school was actually in a town called Mariana, which was in the I had this, I said it before. Jackson, I think, Jackson County, Florida. I'm almost 100%. That's where it is. Anyway, so initially to the public, the place looked fine. You know, it wasn't as isolated as many people think. The football teams met up in the Mariana School field. The school often invited the public in for various holiday light shows. So, like the Christmas lights, you know, where you can drive through,
Hmm.
the school put that on.
Oh, and let me guess, it was the victims that had to put everything up.
Oh, yes, of course.
Oh,
Um, that was part of it because like it was very well manicured. The grass was always cut, the trees were always trimmed, bushes always, you know, in various whatever horticulture shape, you know. And yeah, they would do these elaborate light shows and things like that. They would do decorations. They were invited to the church to, you know, worship alongside the students. Farmers were invited in to learn about the school's agricultural program. Other schools were actually invited to Dozer on field trips. Yeah, to show like what happens when you get on the wrong side of the law, and then
oh,
like
like
how to reform them.
So it was like scared straight.
But at the same time, it was also humiliation for the boys who were there.
Oh yeah.
So 150 locals of Mariana and surrounding towns worked at the Dozer school at any like given point, with the exception of like the very early years. 150. That's just at any point. That's not to mention turnover rate. Because there's always a turnover rate.
Oh yeah.
But then this school was open for 111 years. So that's generation after generation after generation in the same town. Sorry, it really pisses me off. It
Yeah.
really, really does. So it was friends, it was families, it was before them, it was after them. There was actually the first Black mayor, Elmore Bryant. He was actually born in 1934. He taught at the Dozer School for Boys briefly in the 1990s. He grew up in the area and recalls being terrified of being sent there. Parents and teachers would regularly threaten children into compliance. This is in the regular schools. Don't mess up or you'll go to Dozer. Yeah, it was great. Boys who came back to town had horror stories of dangerous, difficult, hard labor and severe beatings, and many victims of abuse. Their humility kept them silent prisoners for the majority of their lives. They felt helpless with nowhere to run to. Everyone at Dozer knew what happened to the boys that tried to run away. There was a blaring alarm signal that would even go all the way out to the entire town of Mariana. There was, and it like some towns have a whistle where kids have to be in at a certain time, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like that, except this whistle meant that there was a runaway. And some townsfolk would take those opportunities and wait on the other side of the woods or the field or the river, because there's various ways that they could get out of Dozer, but you had to make it completely out of Mariana to be safe. Because if townsfolk caught you, they could turn you in for a reward.
Of course.
However, if you went into the swamps, the townspeople didn't come looking for you. That was where they sent out for the dog boys. These are the adult prison guards who had dogs who would be sent out into the swamps to retrieve runaways. And those who would be returned were often covered in bites, head to toe. And in some cases, they might not necessarily have been only dog bites, because it's a swamp and it's Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and if one didn't make it back, oh well, we don't know what happened. They ran away.
And they were probably a meal for Gator.
You never know. You never know because there were other kids who were for pig feed. Um, so Robert Straley witnessed a occurrence working in the hospital. Um, he said that there was a boy shaking all over and with a very pale face as if he were in shock. He was covered in blood-soaked towels that were applied to his skin, which covered most of his body. The next day, Straley was out in the linen closet organizing and overheard some men talking, saying, quote, the runner would end up in the swamp and not be coming back. The boy tried to escape too many times, he said, and, quote, the school was done with it, end quote. The next day, the bloody boy was gone. Straley knew the boy was too wounded to have been released, but he also knew not to ask questions. Straley never saw the boy again. The fate of the boys who ran away or simply disappeared from the school may never be known. Because these men were hunted by haunted by their memories of what happened at Dozer, many didn't come forward till the early 21st century, which leaves how many generations behind that didn't get the chance to speak up.
Yeah.
They wanted to have acknowledgement and describe the severity and savagery that they experienced 50 plus years prior by binding themselves to other men who understood their pain. The boys of Dozer became men who found strength, safety, and comfort in their brotherhood. The incidents of abuse cost some survivors their mental well-being, their ability to trust others, emotional stability, their marriages, their livelihoods, or a combination of all such losses. Dozer was supposed to reform the boys and teach them to be competent adults. Instead, it stripped them of their psychological health, their sense of worth, dignity, their ability to bond with others, and the capacity to fully participate in society. Robert Straley, on one of the first to go public with his haunting memories that he's had to live with, after years of abuse from his mother, Straley began running away at 13. And his mother would allow the police to bring him back, like I had said before, only to encounter another form of hell. I did tell his whole story, right?
I think so.
Okay. Oh, no. No, I didn't tell Straley's story because he's the one with the toe. I remember now. I saved the story. So remember how we had talked about in the swamps that they would have to harvest in the colder months, and how a child had lost their toe and didn't realize it.
Yep.
That was Robert Straley.
Mm-hmm.
Did I don't remember telling his whole story. Are you sure I told it?
I mean, the name sounds super familiar.
Because I didn't like go through my notes or anything. So I don't think I told his whole story. I think I told a different story that was similar or had talked about like the part of it.
I remember the toe.
Okay, the fear in the eyes. I remember that. Oh, the neat rose. not spoken to. I remember that part. 30 lashes before losing consciousness. I remember that. Did I
Mhm.
mark it twice? Is that what I did? Did I
Yeah,
write it and
because
mark it?
one of the other kids counted like 100 and
Yeah.
yeah, because didn't one of the other kids after he passed out, like,
Hmm. This
and
was,
it because it was his first night there, correct?
yeah.
And it was something like stupid, like he said hello.
That was a different boy. Um, so Robert Straley was one of the colored kids. It was one of the white boys, I believe, who got the lashes for saying hello. I thought I'm screwing myself up here. Did I talk about how he had sat on the cold ground? Um, not for like in tears, but that he wasn't sad about losing his toe, but about how helpless he was.
That it
Yeah,
doesn't sound the helpless thing.
yeah,
Doesn't
I
sound
didn't think so.
familiar.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell this part of it. Okay, so um, sorry, I messed up. Richard Huntley was a black student whose mother couldn't take care of him with the brother. Okay, sorry, that's where I messed up. The names were right next to each other and very similar. um, Along with his brothers, who ended up being sent to Dozer by the truancy officer at 11. Huntley
Do you hear
worked the
that?
cane fields. What?
Thunder.
No, I keep hearing my stomach, man.
Oh,
Okay, so he worked the cane fields with his brother, and harvest was in the colder months. And one time he was so cold he couldn't feel his extremities. He was using a sharp blade and got his foot, not really feeling the pain, but he took the growing pool of blood as not good. He sat down on the cold ground to realize that he had cut off most of his toe. He sat there in tears, not from the pain, but from his own helplessness. At Dozer, he had no one to care for him. It was just long, hard, dangerous work. From the cane fields, he was put into the meat processing plant with animals larger than him to corral, with a prod um, into the chute where an adult would then kill the animal and another would slice and hang. It was especially dangerous in the pen with the animal. And if it turned on him before the worker killed it, there would be no time for others to jump in and save him. Not that he believed anyone would actually try to help. He figured if he did die in the slaughterhouse, the school wouldn't admit to putting such a young child, even a black one, in such danger. He figured he would just be another kid who disappeared from Dozer. It's bad when a small child at 11 years old figures, if I die here, no one's ever going to know really what happened to me. No one will care enough to wonder what happened. Aside from the hell these children were already enduring, there was another threat. They never knew when it would show up, though. The sexual abuse, the rape room, there were tangible fears. A man would show up at a cottage, tell the father he was taking a boy, typically one of the younger ones, to the library or the bowling lane or some such thing that was nowhere near the truth. When boys returned from these outings, they would often be crying and bleeding from the backside, sometimes soaking through the victim's clothing, only to be told by the cottage fathers to go shower off. The boys were threatened with death if they told anyone. Gady recalls that it was really nasty, that he was really nasty and that he could really hurt you. He could hurt you really bad, he said. He did some pretty bad things to the boys. He was crazy, and we knew he was that way. All the directors knew, and they just covered it up for him. Gaddy had been assaulted in the school's office, while Freddie Williams recalls being whipped on a cot in the White House by one man and then raped by another on the same cot. That man sexually assaulted Williams over and over in the following months, giving him snacks and treats in trade for sexual acts.
Disgusting.
Others tell of the rape room. Some remember it as a crawl space under the dining hall, while others say it was a cellar beneath the school, some under the gymnasium. There's various places, apparently. But they all agreed on one thing. It was dark and dingy, with a mattress on the floor. That's all it was. One night, Tidwell and another staff member snatched Straley and took him to the rape room. After years of trying to block it out, Straley recalls being face down on the floor with a man atop him. He could smell the breath and hear him. Straley felt as if the bones in his chest might break from the weight of the grown man. Then there was the medical experiments. Straley witnessed hospital staff treat boys who had been beaten and it not be reported. The medical malpractice had been later confirmed by both former students and staff. Dr. Louis Souza, whose last name is spelled in a couple of different ways in varying locations, but he was the staff psychiatrist at Dozer. He was a special piece of work. From the mid-1950s to the mid-1960s. He believed that behavioral disorders were related to an insufficient supply of oxygen in the blood. He thought more protein was the answer. So he created a soup for those in his care. Not sure exactly what was in it. However, it was red and thick and had chunks of meat. It is also believed that there had been bone marrow extracted for the soup. And it was something that they would have to take daily before every meal and have regular checkups.
How much did they have to eat?
They would have a cup of it that they would have to take. Yeah. But this same doctor, as I said, he was a psychiatrist. He also believed that a lot of their problems were caused by masturbation. He would frequently talk to the boys about it, like how often and like where, and the inappropriate questions was the ones that he asked, we'll say. All the inappropriate questions. And then he would get some of them to demonstrate for him. And then he would throw at them how disgusting they are. Why would they do such a thing? And then they could be thrown out of the office. They could be beaten. You never knew. Yeah. So the actual recorded deaths at the school: 1, accidental drowning; 1, fall off a mule; 1, while having tonsils removed; 1, from the 1932 flu outbreak; 1, from a head injury in a fight with peers. That one was a fucked up scenario. 2, from tuberculosis.
Just 2?
Yeah. 2, from kidney disease. 6, from pneumonia. And 10 in the 1914 fire. However, it has been confirmed that it was like 14. And a couple were adults. So how many was it? 10, 16, 18, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 25 deaths in 111 years. It's amazing. That was awesome.
Even I don't buy that.
Well, there are records of another 50 students or employees who passed while at Dozer, but were buried elsewhere. I didn't get those records. But like those were the oddball ones, I guess, where family didn't claim them. I don't know. Most died from diseases such as flu, malaria, pneumonia, blood poisoning, which we know from the psych episode. The bloodletting was the frequent cure for blood poisoning, which frequently resulted in death. And people wonder why I hate the fucking doctor. Yeah. Cancer, heart attack, several deaths were results of accidents. Mind you, the accidents were things where like a tree would fall on a child, or where tractors crashed. Yeah. Drowning, a fire-related death. 2 others connected to auto accidents. 1 boy was strangled to death by a fellow student. Another escaped, had stolen a car, and was shot by a deputy. I'm sorry, a deputy sheriff about 200 miles away. And in fact, there is one, I don't think that I have it wrote down here, but one person had run away, and their cause of death was shot by unknown. That's all it was. Runaway, shot by unknown. That was it. It was a black child. And that's why that's all it was. And I'm not excusing that by no means. Okay, I gotta look at this. Okay, so I'm going to read you this part, the technological witness, because we are about to get into all the fun stuff. In 1967, the state of Florida banned corporal or physical punishment reforms. Wait a minute, did I read this part?
I think so.
I did not. Okay, so they banned it. Dozer was still shackling boys and hog tying them as a form of discipline. Decades later, in 2007, a Dozer guard brutalized an 18-year-old inmate, Justin Caldwell, repeatedly bashing the young man's head into the concrete floor. The guard left Caldwell, who was bleeding from his forehead, and later lost consciousness on the floor for 30 minutes. Outraged, Caldwell's father contacted the FBI to investigate. Based on the investigation that followed, the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice fired the guard.
Good.
The department eventually also fired the school superintendent, who had 5 other confirmed cases of abuse under his leadership at the school. Many more cases were alleged to have taken place. How were investigators able to confirm abuse at Dozer in the 21st century when they had not been able to do so in earlier decades? Through the school's technological witnesses, surveillance cameras on campus, 3 cameras had captured the attack on Caldwell, and with that evidence, there was no denying the guard's abuse. Yeah, insane. And then hopefully this one goes, okay. 2011, okay. So fuck, I gotta find the beginning of this. So this one again talks about lawsuits, except this one is Troy Tidwell, known to Dozer inmates as the one-armed man. Remember how I said the one-armed man did do it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he is, being named in this. He walks with a cane in May of 2009 after testifying before the FDLE. Tidwell was named by hundreds of survivors as one of their abusers during the 1950s and 60s. Due to the passage of time and lack of evidence, however, authorities were not able to prosecute him. Hundreds. Sorry, I can't emphasize that. That's insane. And he just, he walks free. So he did admit that he had whipped boys and things like that, referred to it as a spanking, and that he had told them to lie face down on the cot and hold the rails. He also admitted that if necessary, staff called in other boys from the kitchen to restrain boys who resisted punishment. According to Tidwell, 6 was the usual number of blows for minor offenses, 8 to 10 for serious wrongdoings. He claimed that Dozer spankings were no worse than the ones he gave his own kids at home. They were not beatings, he said, nor did he raise his arm any higher than his head to deliver a blow. Tidwell also said that he could not recall that any boy was ever bloodied, nor did any boy ever need medical attention after a punishment session at the White House.
Mm.
In the end, the lawsuit against Tidwell and various Florida state agencies was dismissed in 2010. The judge ruled that if any crimes had been committed at Dozer, they were beyond the statute of limitations. In other words, the cases were just too old to prosecute. But in February of 2011, based on much more recent events that were coming to light at Dozer, two Florida legal service teams brought a case against Dozer to the Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Department of Justice, or the DOJ. The lawsuit claimed the civil rights violation against the Dozer School for Boys as various of the 14th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution. Among the many provisions in that amendment are the incarcerated youth must be kept safe from harm. Oops, they forgot that part. They thought they were supposed to inflict it. They just got their wires crossed. Miscommunication. The lawsuit named two current administrators of Dozer and the school's supervising organization, the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice. The lawsuit alleged that boys in the school's care were being physically abused through inappropriate use of force and physical restraints. And it alleged that they were sometimes put in isolation for days or weeks at a time without proper treatment. In December of that year, the DOJ released a 28-page report condemning the actions at Dozer. The DOJ concluded that youth confined at the school had been subjected to conditions that placed them at serious risk of avoidable harm in violation of their rights protected by the Constitution. During our investigation, we received credible reports of misconduct by staff members to youth within their custody. The report found excessive and unnecessary use of force in inappropriate confinement, including isolation. The DOJ also found a lack of adequate medical care, as well as unsanitary and unsafe conditions that endangered the students. The report concluded that Dozer had failed to provide the rehabilitative services for which it was responsible. However, the DOJ report of December 2011 did not make its conclusions from the historic accounts from the White House boys or the Black boys of Dozer, nor did it pull from the FDLE interviews about abuse said to have occurred at the school from the 1950s through the 1970s. The official condemnation of Dozer came instead from the DOJ's investigation into the facility while it was still open in the 21st century. More than 100 years after the school first opened its doors, and despite countless reports of mistreatment during that time, abuses were still taking place at Dozer. With pressures mounting on all sides, the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice announced on May 26, 2011, that it planned to shut down the school. The official explanation was that Dozer was having financial troubles and could no longer afford to stay in business. After 111 years, Dozer was finally closed.
Good. Sorry, there is like no air circulation in here at
Oh,
all.
good. I saw you fanning and I wasn't going to say nothing.
Ooh, like this room gets so warm and I don't know why.
It's because it's in the center of the house.
Not really.
On that wall it is.
There's an
That
outside
room,
wall
yeah.
outside wall right there.
But you have the one house on that side. On the other side, you have a little more leeway because you have the wider space for the driveway. But you have your room, then there's that room, and then you have the bathroom, and then the back room. You know what I mean? So it's like right in the center of all that stuff where there's no airflow, versus the other side has a little more airflow.
What I need
And
in
from the
this
road,
house is central fucking air. That's what I need in here.
what you're getting at.
I would love to get central air.
I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty nice. Okay, ready? We have more to go. How long have we been going? Almost an hour. To establish written documentation in 2012, the USF team studied newspapers and other available primary source documents. They gathered court paperwork, death certificates, Dozer attendance records. They discovered close to 100 boys between the ages of 6 and 18 died at Dozer between 1900 and 1973, which is a huge difference from what, is actually in there. 45 of those boys were buried at Dozer, with another 31 buried elsewhere. The team could not determine where another 22 listed boys had been buried. At this time, a team of forensic investigators opened the White House in 2008 to do luminol testing in both the rooms and hallway with all negative results. Yeah. Yep. I found that absolutely amazing. I was like, what? No way, that can't be. Like, I swear to God, I was flipping pages back and forth. I'm like, that can't be right.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right at all.
And so then I thought about it. Well, it kind of makes sense that they would clean it before anyone could actually see it. Like when they knew shit was about to go bad, like when the first couple started to come forward
But
and
you
said,
would,
hey, this is happening.
I mean, like, even if you clean up blood with bleach, it's still going to show up.
But if you do that and you paint and all kinds of other things, there's other things you can do to erase it too. You know what I mean?
You would think something. I mean, to miss all of it,
Yeah.
or like to be able to cover, yeah, that makes
It,
no
it
sense.
it's either that the building was completely scrubbed, is my thought, or that the team that did it didn't actually do it.
Yeah, I guess that could be too.
Because remember, you got Florida governors and mayors and everything
Oh,
else
never mind. Say no more.
invested into this school. Governors are former teachers. Okay, so a judge determined that things happened too long ago. Statute of limitations had run out, even though at all the White House boys and the Black boys at Dozers wouldn't give up until their stories were known and to hope for any form of justice. Detailed examination of the historical records suggested that the USF team would find 34 persons buried in the school cemetery and not the 31 originally represented by the metal crosses. However, the actual fieldwork discovered 55 graves containing 51 individuals. The team found the charred remains from the 1914 fire had been divided into multiple coffins, each in its own grave. Anthropological analysis of those graves actually showed that fewer people had been buried than the total number of burial containers. The team also discovered that the charred remains had been buried in two types of caskets. Some burned bones from the fire were in professionally built, infant-sized coffins. However, most of the remains in the cemetery were coffins that were apparently handmade, perhaps by Dozer staff and students. Of the 55 graves, only 13 were within the clearing where the 31 crosses once stood. None of those were directly beneath any of the 31 markers, as would be expected if crosses had been confidently matched to graves. The other 42 burials were outside the moved portion of the cemetery. They were found among the woods and brush or beneath the vehicle lane leading to the cemetery. They were literally driving on them. Mhm. In January of 2016, the USF team published its final report. Through DNA testing, the cemetery project had been able to positively identify 7 individuals. The families of 4 later decided to rebury the remains at locations of their choice. This was paid for by the state, by the way.
That's
Uh,
surprising.
it is, but it's something that it talks about it in the one book. Based on artifacts and other clues and testing, the team believed that they could presumptively identify for 14 more individuals. Overall, about 25% of individuals reported to have died at the school were white, while 75% who died at the school were black. And this reflects the recorded school attendance by race over time. Blacks greatly outnumbered whites during much of Dozer's sordid history. Okay, that's that. Anyway, over here. George Owen Smith. Blah, 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 blah. In August of 2014, Erin Kermel and her USF team made the first positive identification of skeletal remains at Dozer. George Owen Smith. In 1940, when he was 14, Smith had been sentenced to Dozer for allegedly stealing a car. Just a couple of months later, officials notified Smith's mother that her son's decomposing body had been discovered off campus beneath the porch of a house in Marianna. The condition of his body made it difficult to know for certain how he had died, but the officials believe Smith may have died of pneumonia while hiding under the house. A kid's hiding under the house and he just died of pneumonia?
I
Just
mean,
just randomly? Like that doesn't make sense to me. I'm
if
sorry.
he's hiding, and then he got to the point where he was so weak, couldn't do nothing.
You really think the people who lived in that house didn't notice anything?
Don't know.
All right. Anyways, Smith's mother knew that he had run away from the school once and that authorities had brought him back. She hadn't heard from him again for a while, so she wrote the school to find out about her son's whereabouts. The school informed her that he had run away again and that they did not know where he was. The next day, in January of 1941, Smith and her husband borrowed a car and traveled to the school with their daughter, Ovel. It was then that Dozer officials explained that the boy's body had been found earlier that morning.
Oh,
Oh, just
convenient.
miraculously.
Yeah, convenient.
hmm hmm That's not a bullshit story at all. Um, Staff showed the family a fresh mound of dirt at the cemetery. The staff told the couple that their son's gravesite, it lay to the end of 2 rows of unmarked burials near the woods. The family always wondered if the grave actually contained George's body, and if so, how he died, and why he was buried so quickly. Many decades later, Smith's sister, former police officer Ovel Krell, learned the USF project at Dozer. She volunteered to provide a DNA sample for comparison to any remains the team recovered. When she learned her DNA was a match to the DNA from one set of remains, Krell said, "I couldn't believe it. After 73 and a half years of fighting and looking and hoping and praying, I was searching for him, not only out of love, but for a vow I made my mother and father on their deathbeds that I would find my brother if it's in my power, and I would look until I died. At the age of 85, Krell had found her brother. She reburied his remains beside the graves of their parents. Obviously, he was one of the 4 that was moved. Okay, my last little thing here. Decades of darkness cannot hide all things. None of the victims at Dozer had clear signs that demonstrated or even hinted that the school was responsible for their untimely deaths. Because the boys came to Dozer from different backgrounds and at various ages, even the illnesses and malnutrition that they have suffered cannot be definitively tied to the school. The USF investigation could not confirm neglect, abuse, or even specific cause of death for the remains of those buried at the school. Still, some of the Dozer survivors have not given up hope that their memories of abuse will one day be confirmed through scientific evidence. When USF released its exhumation report, survivor Robert Straley said, "These boys' lives were not lost in vain, for their stories changed the laws of juvenile justice in Florida, and their monument should be a shining reminder that decades of darkness cannot hide all things. May their many candles burn brightly, and may their candles be lit for the boys that may never be found. It is better to extend a hand than raise a fist. Forgiveness is only for the strong."
Mm.
I couldn't not read that part.
Yeah.
I hope that the families can find some type of validation in the retelling of the stories.
Mm. Is that all of it?
Mm-hmm.
That was one fucked up. Um, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That's one of those stories that pisses you off, breaks your heart, and then pisses you off again.
And then breaks you all over again.
Yeah. I
Because
bet
yeah,
you're,
my heart broke for the boys who got sent there,
oh yeah.
and the people who ran it pissed me off. And then when they tried to come out and be like, okay, look, this is what happened, nobody would believe them. The governmental systems denied them, wouldn't own up to anything, wouldn't even admit anything until after the school was closed.
Oh yeah.
Wouldn't even give a formal apology for 6 fucking years after they closed it.
Yeah. Mm.
And then to know that there was absolutely nothing that could be done as far as medically and scientifically with the bones or with any of the testing that was done at the location, that like nothing was conclusive because it was so old. And to know that because of the times that they lived in, even though they could prove that the children, had suffered abuse, they couldn't say exactly where or when they suffered it. So yeah, that was a great mind fuck.
Yeah, I bet you're glad to be done with it.
Mm-hmm. Wait till the next mind fuck. It's great.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. It was a very hard story. Like I said, there was, the two books that I had used. Unfortunately, I can't get any of the other book because I forgot it at my desk at work. Oops. But I do know that there is stuff on YouTube in relation to the stories. Um, just try to, bear in mind it it's being told from multiple perspectives. Um, so one child may remember it this way, one may remember this way, and I shouldn't say child because they're not children. They're grown men in the telling of everything. Um, but yeah, it's just, and you have to remember too, they were traumatized as fuck. And trauma makes our memory not always so reliable.
that's I don't know. Mm, yeah, that's like I said, it reminds me a lot of that movie. And
And sorry, go ahead.
and I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but once they're adults, they exact some revenge,
Hmm.
and it's really satisfying when they do.
I kind of wish that some of the people from Dozer could have some type of revenge. And unfortunately, they were gone. All that was left was the one-armed man, and they couldn't pin him on anything. Uh, I don't think this has it. No. I was thinking this one had when the last person had died, but I think it was the other book. So, but this one was actually written by the forensic scientist, Elizabeth Murray. So I found this to be the best and most credible source, because it had everything as far as the history, it had personal accounts, had, the actual court proceedings that happened, all the different government agencies that were involved. It had all the details.
And you don't remember the other book?
Um, it was something along the lines of We Carry Their Bones, I believe. I did write them down, I swear. Oh, maybe I didn't. I'm sure I didn't write them down because I was showing them to you. And we had talked about them in the beginning. I did not write them down, but I'm pretty confident that's what it was. Unfortunately, I couldn't begin to remember the name of the author. But I think that one was done by a son of one of the survivors, but who has passed since the writing
Oh,
of the book.
okay.
So I think I'm not 100% on that.
Uh,
So yeah, any idea what you're gonna do next?
no. Not a clue. I mean, I don't know. I don't know like what direction I want. Like, do I want to do something witchy next time? Because it's been a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, And like before that, I did a couple true crime, and we did The Haunting with
Mhm.
the Stimson and uh, the one by you.
The Wood County Insane Asylum.
Yeah. So we've done the true crime. We've done, and to me, your story was true crime. Um, which congratulations on doing your first true crime.
Oh, but this next one, and I know you've heard this. Like, there's no way you couldn't have heard about this, considering where you live. And I know I'm pretty damn confident Dan has heard about this. So mine is a combination because of all of the mystery around it. Dead in the Water. The men who disappear after a night of drinking and then are suddenly found in a body of water that had been previously searched.
In Michigan.
And Wisconsin and various other states.
Is that like the smiley face killer? Or no?
Probably similar. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's similar. They might be overlapping. Like for here, it happens a lot in Oshkosh. Like it, there's been a lot of cases that connect to Lake Michigan.
Huh.
And if I'm not mistaken, like where the ferries go through, for Michigan and Wisconsin, where the ports are for the ferries. Yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm. Basically anywhere where there's like a river walk type of location, um, is kind of where it happens. Yeah. Or like college towns with a river. It's very common there too. So yeah, I can't wait to delve into this, but I know on the other hand, it's going to drive me nuts because there's so many aspects of it. Some say Illuminati, some say aliens.
Yeah, the way you're describing it, I've never heard that.
I'm amazed. Dan, help me out here, dang it.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe like once I hear it, I'll be like, okay, but right now it's not ringing any bells.
Okay, I'll read you the back of this, just a couple of the things off the back. Okay. The true, mysterious, unexplained story of the drowning young men. Hundreds of young men vanishing without a trace, only for many of them to be found dead weeks or months later in remote rivers or creeks, shallow ponds or canals, in areas that search parties have searched multiple times before, their bodies later discovered there as though placed to be found.
Huh.
Like we've had people who have gone missing in the winter. You know what I mean? Like around the bodies of water, and then they're miraculously found like a month or two later, completely frozen or so badly decomposed or what have you. Don't you guys have those kinds of stories too?
I mean, it's possible.
I'm almost 100% you guys do.
Like, is this like a recent type thing, or is this something that happened like 20 years ago?
Over the course of the last 20 years,
Ugh.
it's been a continuous thing.
I'm drawing a
Probably
blank
even
right
longer.
now.
Hmm.
I'm drawing a blank. Yeah. Hmm.
So this book is by Stephen Young. We'll see where it leads me.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
am.
believe you don't know about that. I'm almost 100% Dan does.
Like I said, maybe once I hear more of it, I'll be like, okay, and then I'll feel stupid. And
Well, that's going to be my next thing. So if anyone has any good, credible sources out there for information on that, shoot them on over to me.
yeah, but yeah, as far as me, I don't know if I want to do something like on the witchy side or I don't know. I'm looking at my books over there because I got them all nice and neatly arranged now that, this hellhole's been cleaned. And like part of me wants, but I don't know because they're either paranormal or true crime books, and I got a couple of witchy ones. I don't know. I don't know.
It'll be a surprise for next week then.
Shit, as of right now, it's gonna be a surprise to me because I don't fucking know.
Nothing wrong
I
with it.
I have no clue. Like for me, I could constantly do the true crime and paranormal and be okay with that, but I know it's not originally what we, like we set out to do whole.
Yeah.
And and sometimes it's hard to do the witchy stuff because people who are into that have their own way of doing things. And I don't want to read shit from a book, but I don't also want to get information wrong.
Right.
So it's kind of difficult to say. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I
Okay.
got,
So that means listeners, viewers, recommendations, please.
yeah. I actually do want to put a poll in the group to get some opinions on what people are interested in. And I mean, I know we've got one hopefully soon coming up. Well, not soon, soon, but there's some stuff that someone needs to deal with, but we do want to have somebody on to help us with a topic. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I can think of a million things to do, but again, like I said, I don't, I, I don't know. I want to do some witchy stuff, but again, it just it could be offensive if I say the wrong thing. I don't know. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna be putting up like a poll in the group to
Okay.
figure some shit out.
Sounds
But
good.
it is after 3 o'clock. I got to go wash my face and go to bed.
All right, ma'am. We will talk to you later. And as for everyone else, have a wonderful week. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.